Time to put the spotlight then on Matrix Partners. It's a seed to Series A stage investor in India. They've got the likes of Razorpay, Daily Hunt, as well as Five Star Finance and Zomato in their portfolio. And they've recently made a final close on their latest India fund of $550 million, the largest corpus that they've raised for the country since starting their operations in 2006. Joining me on the show right now is Tarun Davda. He's a managing director at Matrix Partners. Thank you so much, Tarun, for taking time out and joining in. Let's just discuss this fund as well now and talk about it. You've got a lot of venture capital funds at a time like this which are looking to, deploy quite significant funds for new initiatives in the South Asian market. Why is India looking so appealing at a time like this? And tell us a little bit more about this fund.
Excellent. Firstly, thank you, Avanne. Thank you for having me. I think I'll start with, why India is exciting and sort of what we see. So India today is about, 3.5 trillion market cap overall. Our view is about 5 to 7% of that is digital market cap, right? Which is all the unicorns put together, all the publicly listed companies put together is about, 150 to 200 billion today. Over the next decade, we see this going to about 10 trillion of overall market cap, where we think about 20 to 25% will be digital. And that number, by the way, is upwards of 30 to 40% in US and China already. So our view is, from the current 200 billion of digital market cap, over the next decade, that number will go to about 2.5 trillion. Not all of it will come to startups, obviously. Incumbents will also take some share of it. But even, conservatively speaking, more than $1 trillion of incremental digital market cap will be available for new startups that are sort of, getting built out today. That's our thesis. We believe that there is a lot of value to be unlocked over here, and that's the bet we've made.
All right, more than $1 trillion of digital market cap will be made available. So let's discuss then some of the themes that this fund is closely looking at. Of course, you will be talking about new age tech, digital, that is going to be the focal point, but which are some of the other sectors that look promising in India, according to you, that you will actively deploy funds? Have you already identified some companies?
Yes, so Avan, we've actually been investing, although the fund is just being announced as we speak. It's a $550 million fund, including sort of our, employee and GP capital. But we've actually started investing in that fund through early last year. We've made about 18 to 20 investments already in the last 12 months. So despite sort of, skepticism in the market overall in terms of tech, our view is that early stage is actually as buoyant as it was. In fact, it's a great environment because it also allows us time to really spend time with entrepreneurs, build conviction. They get time to build conviction on us as investors. So early stage has actually been, fairly, thankfully, relatively less affected by the overall sort of macro environment. In terms of what doesn't change with this fund, right? So we've always been seed to Series B investors. We like to enter early. We like to be sort of the first institutional investor on the cap table of the company. We see ourselves as company builders. We like to sort of work closely with entrepreneurs and helping them sort of set up the company for success. So that doesn't change, right? And we will essentially end up writing a first check from $1 million to $10 million, going even higher if we have a higher conviction on the company. So that doesn't change. The second thing that doesn't change is in terms of sectors that we've already been investing in for the last decade and have done well for us. So FinTech, consumer tech, B2B, global SaaS and software, that's bread and butter for us, and that will not change. We'll continue to invest in those. The new sectors we will start investing in through this fund. There's a lot that's happening in climate and EV. We've already invested in Ola Electric, which is obviously India's largest electric company that's done really well. We will look to make more investments in the broader EV ecosystem. So that's one. The second is there's a lot happening with semiconductors in India, both from a talent pool perspective as well as the why now with all the geopolitical sort of changes that are happening around us.
There's been that sort of reality check because the treatment in the private markets is very different than that of the public markets. A lot of these companies have pulled up their socks. Now we're talking about the profit con, which I think is going to be the term that will be preferred versus just a unicorn. What is your outlook on the kind of valuations that these companies have commanded? And do you think that a reality check is required?
Absolutely. I think Avan, you see, the public markets have never changed what they look for, right? Public markets are looking for, profitable businesses that are self-sustaining, that have high ROCE, that have deep moats that they've built. They're looking for predictability, right? They're not looking, at the stage at which we invest, startup companies are still very early. And so, we're willing to give them a lot of time to prove things out. But public markets have never changed what they look for. I think it's incumbent on us as sort of private equity and venture capital investors. It's incumbent on the companies that we back to also recognize that it is a different world when you list. There is a lesson to be learned. I think while a lot of the IPOs in India are down 30, 40, 50% from their sort of peak prices, we aren't alone in that, by the way. There is, globally, even some of the largest tech bellwethers around the world, whether it's a Facebook or Tesla or Apple, I mean, several of these companies are down 30, 40, 50, 60%. So part of it, I would say, is just macro, which is overall interest rate regime has changed. As a result, what price investors are willing to pay for these companies has changed.
But Tarun, it's also very commendable that out of close to 102 unicorn startups, 10 of them are among the Matrix Partners India portfolio. And with identifying some companies, like for instance, you guys were the first investors in Razorpay, at a time when it was a very tough space, it was a very crowded market. What is it that you're looking at, in terms of that checklist for a company before actually writing the check or putting down the money, especially in a tough environment like this?
Yeah, so I think that's what doesn't change, Avan. We've always maintained that we are founders first, and it's not just a marketing tagline. I'll actually break it down. I'll tell you what it means. So every investor wants to invest in a outstanding team going after a large market, right? You'd write those checks every day. But there are certain investors who are much more thesis driven. They have a very strong point of view on a particular industry, particular sector. There are certain investors who are very, very sort of founders focused, right? They're investing in founders who they believe are forces of nature, who will change the world, who have the right capability, who have the 10,000 hours, who have a nuanced, differentiated insight on a particular problem that they're looking to solve. Matrix is very much in the latter bucket, right? We believe that at the surface and from a distance, every market in India can look very large. At the same time, every market in India, one can take a very dismissive view saying, hey, it's hard to make money here, right? But it always takes a special entrepreneur to be able to go deep, solve the real consumer problem, unlock value, and then expand from there on.
What's the outlook as well in terms of then the kind of deal momentum that you're looking at, in particular for Matrix Partners for this year? What kind of deals have you closed already for in the last 5 to 6 months or so?
Yes. So I think, like I mentioned at the beginning, the good thing for us is, 2020, 2021, early parts of 2022 were completely crazy. I think deal momentum had really, really just gone off the charts. It made life difficult for us because there was also a lot of opportunistic entrepreneurship that was happening. A lot of people were starting up because they just knew that they'd get funding. They were half-baked ideas. People hadn't, taken the time to really educate themselves on, is there a real problem to solve? Will people pay for this? Is there a large number of people that are facing this problem? People were just starting, investors were funding these companies very early. Sometimes 2, 3 rounds of capital raising happened in these companies even before they had found product market fit. That is not an environment which works well for us. It actually makes life harder for us. What is happening today is actually much more, plays much better to our knitting. We're early stage investors. We like to build conviction. We like to spend time with entrepreneurs over several months of engagement. I think we're continuing to invest. The themes that we're seeing the highest activity in is B2B and sort of global cross-border commerce, for example, is one big theme. We've made several investments in that theme. Consumer tech, we've made 2 or 3 investments. One of them is a generative AI investment, like I mentioned. FinTech continues to be a big theme for us. It's been a theme across the last 2 or 3 funds and continues to be that in this fund as well. In addition, global SaaS is something which we're seeing taking off. We've made several bets both in the last fund and from this new fund, and we really believe that this is India's time. We're seeing especially by companies like Freshworks that have listed, that has really spurred entrepreneurship in that ecosystem. And we're seeing a lot of people who are saying, hey, you know what, I've got the product chops. I now understand how to sell into global markets. And obviously the market size and opportunity is something which already existed out there. And so we've made a bunch of investments even in that theme as well, and we'll continue to double down.
Thanks so much then, Tarun, for joining in on the show. Would have loved to chat more, but like you said, we're completely timed out, and good to get a gist as to what the investment thesis is, as well as the very promising themes in India.
Thank you so much, Avanne. Really appreciate you having me on this.